Hi, I'm Jordan Walters. Tonight, a live interview with history maker David Patterson. Him and his partner, Kevin Patterson, were the first gay couple to legally wed in the state of Arizona. Now, for their story. First of all, thank you on behalf of our group for talking to us. The first question. So, first of all, did your family support you when you came out, and how did you guys predict that they would react?
Well, Kevin and I have very different stories, and I'll tell you a little bit about each of us. We grew up in very different families that had different ideas of what it meant to be gay. So with my family, I grew up in a household with 3 brothers. I'm third down the line. And for me, when I came out, my family was very supportive. I was the first person in my family to ever do that. So they weren't really sure what to do with it. I wasn't really sure what to do with it. But we all came together and got through it together. Kevin's family, his story is a little bit different. He was in high school when he first talked to his parents about it. And they grew up in a southern town, very Baptist, very the way of the Bible is the way of life. And I'm not trying to align Christianity with being anti-gay, but in the Baptist community, it's something that's not acceptable. So when he did first talk to his parents, they said, well, they supported him, they loved him, they said, we understand, but why don't you go to college first? And then once you go to college and you really get out and see the world a little bit, then you can, better understand what this means for you. And so once he came back, he said, yep, I'm still gay. And so they've really been a great support. We had a commitment ceremony about 5.5 years ago, and all of our families came. Nobody in our family has been disrespectful, has been anything but kind and gracious to us, as if we were just any other heterosexual couple.
And because I know it's really important that your families are supportive and help you. Okay, so how did it feel to be in a world that didn't accept you and your beliefs?
It's interesting that you asked that question, because I think Kevin and I really approached this from 2 different angles. Fresh out of high school, I wasn't, really sure what the whole thing meant. I mean, I knew who I was and I knew what I felt, but I wasn't sure, big picture, what that meant. How did I fit in the world? So I decided to go to school at NAU, Northern Arizona University, and I found a community up there that was very supportive. And I don't mean the gay community, I mean the university community was very supportive up there. And so I found my place in activism. I found that since I had that belonging and that sense of self there, I was able to do more. Back then, this was in the late 90s, early 2000s, we were talking about marriage equality, and we were talking about, discrimination and practices that support or don't support us as citizens, as people, as couples, and as families. So I got really involved in that for a while, and then after I left, it kind of fell by the wayside for me, because I was trying to figure out what life looked like at that point and how I was going to pay my bills and moving forward. Whereas Kevin had a different experience. He went to a conservative college in the Midwest where he actually had to sign a waiver that said he would not practice, and then not him, everybody had to sign a waiver to say that they would not practice homosexual behaviors. So he didn't really get that opportunity and that experience, and he continued to live in this world where it not only was not acceptable, you weren't even allowed to, breathe it, live it at all. And so I think for him, and I know from him because he's told the story before, it stifled his ability to discover who he was in that time. And when we were given the choice to be involved in the Arizona lawsuit, for me it was a no-brainer. This is something I feel like I've been fighting for 10, 15 years. But for him, he approached it with much more trepidation. He was concerned about what it would mean for our family, what it would mean for him. He wasn't sure he wanted to be an activist. He just really wanted the rights, but he wasn't sure that he was the right person to get involved. Now, since we've done this, I will tell you that has turned a complete 180. Right now, he's driving back from Tucson. He's involved with a local organization called Arizona Equality that works for LGBT rights in Arizona. And one of the big things we're focusing on now is transgendered rights, because we've got 2 divergent paths here. You've got sexual identity and sexual orientation, and so with the sexual identity, that's more of the transgendered, has just received federal protection, right? So they've been, I guess, brought into the fold. You know, as a citizen, they have full protection due to their gender identity, whereas gay and lesbian do not. We are still not protected under the, we're not a protected class, but we have marriage equality now, so that's awesome, right? So I guess to answer your question in a long and in a short way, gaining marriage equality for us was a big step forward to say, as citizens, we have the same rights as everybody else. But as now you're seeing this backlash, which is always happens, right? Anytime there's a progressive movement in civil rights or social rights, there's always a backlash that comes out. When, and I'm not comparing gay rights and black rights, but I'm drawing a parallel of how the reaction occurred. When slaves were set free, there was now separate but equal rules put in place. So there was a backlash on that, and saying, no, we're going to preserve our way of life. When we achieved marriage equality, there's now a backlash coming from Indiana and I believe Arkansas, saying that, well, you can have your marriage equality, but you're still not going to get the same rights as everybody else, because now we're going to create legislation that says we can refuse you service because we don't believe that this should occur. So I take the approach that it's natural in our country's history that this is going to happen. The Supreme Court's going to hear marriage equality on April 28th, and I have a feeling it's going to become national law soon, which gives me sense of peace and sense of self to say, I'm just the same as everybody else. Really, you know, what goes on between me and Kevin is our business and nobody else's, and why should that be legislated? But people think it should be, so we continue our work in that environment because we don't believe that our romantic life is really the concern of anybody else any more than anybody else's romantic life. So does that answer your question? That was a really long answer.
Yeah, no, that's good.
It was so good.
Going along with that, was it hard to find friends that accepted you?
Was it hard to find friends that connected to us?
After college, because you were fortunate enough to make that community.
And that accepted you.
I gotta be really honest with you. I've been very lucky, and I don't feel like I've ever faced discrimination based on being gay, myself personally. I don't look for it. I don't associate. You know what I mean. Like, if you look for something hard enough, you'll find it. Could it have happened? Yes. Could I not have been hired once because people assumed or had perceptions of me? Yes. Could somebody have not wanted to be my friend? Okay. That might have happened. I don't look for it. I really look for those people who support who I am as a person and really don't take this as an issue. And so, because I feel like that's been this is the way I live my life, I think it's always been easy for me to make friends. And because it's been easy for me to make friends, it's never been a big deal for me to meet people who don't like me because of that and really take that to heart. I don't take that personally. That's them, not me. But I think with Kevin, again, with his upbringing being a little bit different, he lost friends coming out, and he lost friends over marriage equality because his living situation was very different. Case in point, he has family back in his hometown who they came to our celebration, they came to our commitment ceremony. They've been nothing but wonderful to us. But when we were, on the news for marriage equality and all that stuff, they never celebrated that with us. They never said anything to him. And these are, his cousins he grew up with, his aunt and his uncle. They don't say anything bad, but they don't really support, which I guess, is better than being jerks about it. And so Kevin, I think, has had a harder time, ironically, making friends. He's 5 years younger than I am, that's why I say ironically, because I feel like in that generation, it became more of a non-issue than in my generation, and it keeps becoming such a non-issue that I think really his geographic upbringing had a major role in that. And I grew up in Arizona, where yes, we're crazy, and yes, we have weird politics here. I don't feel like Arizona is a discriminatory state when it comes to LGBT rights. They have plenty of other discrimination, don't get me wrong, but not when it comes to LGBT rights. It just has never felt that way. But that matched my experience.
Okay, so, what were ways that you took a stand for your rights and against those who oppose LGBTQ marriage? like such as Chick-fil-A and things like that.
That's a really good point. I do make a conscious effort to where I spend my money is places that do support us, right? So I don't shop at we don't eat at Chick-fil-A as a family, because I don't feel like, they're. So let me answer this a different way if I can. I believe the use of Christian values to demean or to deny LGBT rights is a complete disaster, right? I don't think that it aligns truly with what the Christian church wants, but there are these fringe groups that are making the most noise and speaking for everyone. So when Chick-fil-A comes out and says, we don't support, same-sex marriage because we believe that, the Bible says 1, 2, 3. Well, the Bible says lots of things 1, 2, 3, but we're going to take this one piece and we've decided we're going to make an issue of it. So to me, that's not a Christian value. To me, that's a discriminatory practice, right? If we followed the letter of the Bible, we would still own slaves. We would still be able to beat our wives. We would still, not eat shellfish and all kinds of crazy things. So they've selected this portion of the Bible because for some reason that's just where they've come. That's their prerogative, right? There's things that I like and don't like, and I can appreciate that too. Their right, though, to feel that way ends at discrimination against me for who I am. So if they're going to choose to have that, I don't hate Chick-fil-A. I'm not going to burn one to the ground or anything like that. I'm just going to not shop there. I'm not going to spend my money there. And I feel like one of the things Kevin and I have done to stick up for our rights is we were in the lawsuit, that was part of the reason why marriage equality was brought to Arizona. And we continue to do work. I work with the Human Rights Committee, HRC, Human Rights Campaign, on family. I want to showcase that, families are defined by the family and not by what we think a family should be. I have 2 daughters. They're African American. I have a husband, right? So our family looks very different than what another family does. But I think, that doesn't make us less, and that doesn't make us wrong. It just makes us different. And so my daughters have been a part of this journey too, and I hope for them they see when you believe something's right and you believe it in your heart, you do stand up for it. And it's a risk. It was a risk for us to do that, to put ourselves out there, because, if somebody feels that strongly against it, it's not that hard to find out where somebody lives. And it's not that hard to find out where somebody works and to come and make their life miserable. Luckily, we faced, I would say, almost zero retaliation, and the only things we've had, there's been some negative comments on news articles, but again, I don't look for them, I don't read those. So it's absolutely important for us to stick up for our rights, and we chose to do it through legislation. We're not marchers, we're not protesters. I did that in college. I don't do that anymore. I've got kids now, I can't worry about that. So we chose to fight this battle in the courts. And luckily, our judge saw our case. I mean, the logic against it is thin.
Going along with the children.
That's family.
Okay, going along with the children. Yeah, going along with the children. What struggles did you go through to adopt them? If you wouldn't.
So that's an interesting question. Prior to marriage, okay, actually, even with marriage equality, we were considered 2 single men, and when you adopt kids, the list goes married couple, single woman, single men, of who they will give kids to first, right? Mm-hmm. So when a kid is put into the system, families will say, I'd like to put, there's not a polite way to say this, so I'm going to say it, and it's going to sound rude, but please don't take it this way. I'm going to bid for these kids, right? I think they would be a great fit for my house. And so if several families put them in, we get stacked in ranking order. Well, me and Kevin, as 2 single men, will always be at the bottom. If a married couple is there, they will always get chosen first. With marriage equality, it's supposed to not be that way anymore, but there are people within the system who still don't support marriage equality and who still will say we would not be a fit household. So luckily, our caseworker worked tirelessly on behalf of us and was able to showcase our family as positive and as a great place for these girls, because they really felt that they would do well in our home, specifically because we are a same-sex couple. They were with two moms before us, and they had done very well. And then as a foster family,